Full syndication, full elevation, all generations we already made. Full syndication, full elevation, all generations we already made. We got Shot, Dot, Malcolm, Chris the King, plus the Doc. You know that's like 4G. Sports Mind. Real world, real problems, real news, real sports. We gon' let you know right here on 4Gs. 4Gs.
Welcome to another 4G Sports Podcast. Of course, as always, thank you for viewing and subscribing. Hit the subscribe button, hit that bell so every time you know we put something up, you'll be the first ones to know. Alright? As always, I'm the OG.
I'm the King.
Hey, you know what it is, you got the Doc.
And as you can see, we have another guest, and this time, since he has a Spurs sitting in his background, and now he's gonna point at it. Wow! Coach Hernandez, please introduce yourself to the crowd, please.
Oh, hi guys! Thank you so much for having me. I'm Coach Hernandez, and as you can see, I am a Spurs fan. So sorry if I'm starting off on a controversial note. Brief introduction to myself. I am a teacher and I am a coach here in Phoenix, Metro Tech High School. Shout out 19th Ave and Thomas. I am a girls basketball coach, teacher. I also host my own podcast, the Basketball Teacher Podcast, which we'll get into a little bit later. And my lifelong passion is working with kids, whether it's in the classroom as a teacher or on the court with basketball. And it's what I dedicate my life to, and I love every moment of it. And again, thank you guys for having me.
No problem. Before we get started, King, I just want to say, with everything going on, the boycotts, and I know we will talk about all this later on, I just want to say 2020, we got to get you going. We got to get you going. We're losing so many people this year. We lost Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa from the Black Panther. We lost Lute Olson. And who else did we lose this morning? I'm sorry.
Clifford.
So, rest in peace. Condolences from the show to your family and friends. And I'm just like, come on, can we get 2020 over with quickly, please?
And on that note, OG, I'm gonna say 2020 it really sucks this year. So, yes, let's get it done and over with as fast as possible. So, First question, Coach Hernandez. Thanks for coming on the show today. My first question for you is this. How did you know you would become a coach, and was it a natural progression?
So I've loved basketball my whole life. I played it here and there recreationally. I wasn't the most disciplined kid growing up, so I didn't play it too much organized. But my senior year of high school, we had a volunteer assignment where we had to do, it was like 50 hours of volunteer service. And as a high school senior, I ended up coaching sixth graders at like a local park district type team and just absolutely fell in love with it. And it was perfect because I kind of knew I already wanted to be a teacher. And so I was coaching these young kids and I'm like, this is awesome too. And so because I love teaching and because I love basketball, the two of them just kind of went hand in hand together. And so I went through college, got my degree, and then right as I started my first teaching job, it just opened up where they're like, hey, we got a coaching position, do you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, I'll coach basketball. They're like, great, coach volleyball too. You want to coach softball too? Here, coach all these things while you're at it. I was like 22, 23. Oh, okay, sure, I'll coach all of them. And so I ended up coaching all three of those sports at a middle school level for like 5 years, and then now that I moved to Metro Tech where I'm at now, it's like I'm just sticking to basketball. Like that's my love, that's my sport, and that's what I'm gonna do. And yeah, I think that if you're a teacher and you love sports, you owe it to yourself to at least try coaching, because even if it's at the youth level, you know a lot about your sport, probably a lot more than you think you do, and just go ahead and give it a shot. And so once I put the teaching and the love of basketball together and realized I could coach, love it, and absolutely have loved every moment of it.
All right. Yeah, which coaching style or styles have you modeled from?
Well, there's a few, and I know that this is going to break some hearts here, but I'm going to point back to this flag or this towel right here. So sorry about that. But Greg Popovich would be one that I've personally modeled from on the NBA level, just because Pop, his thing is, if you ever listen to him talk and you listen to him talk about basketball, he doesn't make the game sound way more important than it is. He focuses on like what's important in life, and he focuses on, social and political issues. And to me, that's something that's really important to me, because I never want my players to think that like basketball is the most important thing they're ever going to do in their life, and just kind of putting the sport of basketball in perspective with all of the other issues that they have going on, and not putting so much pressure on them, especially teenagers, by making them think that, they're going to live and die in this, January away game their sophomore year of high school or something. So his would be one. And then on the court, Coach Richardson at Arkansas, his philosophy was that 40 minutes of hell. And so for me, when it's me coaching, I've not always had the most talented teams in the world, but my team's always worked hard. And I guarantee that if you play my girls now, you may win, but you're going to have to be in it for a fight. You're going to have to bring your lunchbox, and you're going to have to really give it your all. And at the end of that game, you're going to know that you played our girls. And at the end, that's all I could ask for, is that, live or win or lose, that, okay, it's Metro Tech. Okay, we got to bring it today. And if I can have established that mentality where teams across the valley know that, oh man, playing Metro, we gotta gear up. Perfect. So just that 40 minutes of hell, you're going to have to bring it every time you play us. So
yeah,
those are the first two that come to mind right away.
Yeah. I think you might have made up for that. Hold on. I can't even really say Spurs.
You got it, though. You got it out. Proud of you.
With Arkansas, though, because I know that the King, wrote a lot of his defensive strategy after that as well. So yeah, that's 40 minutes of hell for sure. So I understand you've won a couple championships, and in winning the championships, what did it do to their mindset for the team, and do you use those wins to motivate your current and future athletes?
So those two teams that I was fortunate enough to win a couple of city championships they were talented, but they worked really hard. And I think that for championship teams, they need to have championship practices. And the best teams that I coached, which were those two, practices were probably like 10 times harder than the games were. Because when you're really talented, when you have a lot of talent, the best people to push you are going to be your own teammates. And so when we had practices, they would be going after each other on the court, one-on-one, fighting each other for rebounds. It was a war. And then by the time they got into a game, the game was actually easier for them than practices were, because of how hard they worked in practice and how much we pushed them in practice. And so what I think I took from that is, with the future teams that I coach and even the current teams that I coach, is just how important working hard in practices and really making your practices like a grind. Like, it's a war out there. And if the games can be easier for your players than the practices are, man, like, that's perfect. And just off the court, some of the things I noticed was that those teams that were really, really successful were also willing to be successful off the court as well, in the way that they carried themselves, the way that they acted in the classroom. My most recent city championship team, as proud as I am that they won the city championship, their GPA for that semester was like 3.8, I think.
Nice.
And I think that on the court success elevates yourself off the court. And I think when you realize that all eyes are on you because, wow, look how successful you are at basketball, those eyes are still on you in the classroom. And if you're motivated to be successful, you shouldn't just be motivated to be successful on the court. You should also want to be successful off the court. And those teams that really understand that and buy into that, I think, are the ones that have the most success. Because to wrap that thought up, if you're a championship level team or a championship level player, you can't just be that player for like 2 hours in a practice or 2 hours in a game. Like, it has to be a mentality that you have every minute of every day. So that's you in the classroom, that's you talking to your family, that's the way that you interact in the neighborhood. And so I think for me, what I noticed was that those players were willing to let themselves be pushed to a championship level off the court, and that just even helped them even more on the court.
Right. Wow. I totally agree with you in that transition and on and off the court. That's huge for us, and it's huge for kids to understand that, you know, even when they go to play in the next level, which leads to my next question. They want to play in the next level, that you're actually prepared for that when it's thrown in front of you. So what advice can you give students that are about to graduate high school, the transition from high school to college?
So I'm gonna take this in two parts. I'll take this from an athlete perspective and then just as a student perspective. So from a student perspective, I think one of the things that a lot of students struggle with when they get into college is that they feel really like alone. They feel really like isolated, and they don't really know like who to turn to, and they don't really know the adults that they can trust. And so for me, the advice that I give to anybody going off into college is to use the resources that you have available to you. I mean, you guys know how crazy some of these tuitions are in college, but those tuitions are paying for things. You know, they're paying for resources, or they're paying for services that students can use, but you just have to go out and ask those questions. You know, ask your counselors, ask your professors, you know, ask people at the library what they even have available for you. You'll be amazed at how many resources are not only available to you, but how few students actually use them because they don't ask, or they don't just even know about it. And so I think that for us as adults, what we need to make sure that we're doing with teenagers and even young athletes is just make sure that we're teaching them how to speak for themselves, how to advocate for themselves, and to know what questions to ask. Because I know sometimes too that sometimes teenagers, even adults, they feel almost embarrassed about asking questions, but there shouldn't be that fear, there shouldn't be that stigma. So from the student perspective, learn to ask questions and speak for your needs and speak for what you need, because you know what you need more than anybody else does. And for student athletes, I think that this is a hard part, and you guys might have some experience with this too, is that if you're a student athlete and you're going from high school to college, or 99% of those student athletes, they're done once they go into college. Once they go to college, their playing career is most likely finished. And so for a lot of them, they've just been focusing on their sport for so long, and now they're in college, and before you know it, it's in like 4 years, then they're going to be done playing their sport, and then what? And so I think right away, for a student athlete who's going into college, I think they need to surround themselves with people who are asking them those questions of, hey, like, what's going on with your life after this? Like, what are your other dreams? What are your other ambitions? Because so often I think some of these athletes, their identity or their image is just, oh, I'm just a basketball player and that's all I've ever been. Well, what happens when the ball stops dropping? You know, what happens when you're 22 and you graduate and you're not playing anymore, or maybe you're just playing recreationally? Or what if you play like semi-professionally, but you only play 5 years and then you're done at 27? And so I think that that's going to be the biggest piece of advice for those players is, great, your sport got you into college, but what's next? Like, what is your next chapter going to be? And so that would be the biggest advice I could give if you're a student athlete, just to think about that.
That's great advice. That's good insight.
Yes, it is. Now, on your podcast, the basketball teachers, which guest or guest gave you insight to assist with an athlete or athletes to achieve their goals?
So I've been doing my podcast for a few months now, and unfortunately I haven't been able to coach at all since I started it, but there have been some guests who've really opened my eyes into how I might want to change the way that I coach or the way that I might want to go about doing things. And so this was something really interesting, and I apologize because I can't remember exactly who the guest was. In fact, it might have been multiple people who mentioned this to me. One of the big things that a lot of the guests mention is about empowering their basketball players and allowing them to have freedom on the court to, make the best decision that he or her thinks that they should be making. And so in my discussions with coaches, one of the things I thought about was when you're coaching on the sidelines in a basketball game, if you are giving out a direction, if you're yelling at somebody, if you're yelling at your player, right? So you're yelling at your player to go under a screen. Well, anytime that you yell at a player or give a direction to a player, that player has to stop. They have to hear what you're saying. They have to process that thought, and then they have to react to it. And if you do that over and over and over again, then what's going to happen is the players are they're not going to act instinctively, and they're just going to wait for the cue from that coach to speak. And I think that sometimes we kind of forget that we want our players to make the right decision or to have freedom on the court and do all these things. But if, as a coach, if I'm always giving directions, then my players are just going to wait on me to tell them something and to think about how slow that can make our players if they know that they have to process everything that we say and then they have to respond and then make that action. I think that what I learned is that I'm going to have to do a better job just letting go a little bit and just letting my players play more and just trusting them. I think too often, and you guys might have experience with this too, I think too often coaches think that what their team does is like a reflection on them, and if my team does this, then they're going to make me look bad, and it's like, well, that's not the point. That's not what you're supposed to do. Right. You need to give these players a chance to grow, and part of that's making mistakes, and that's okay, but don't be the coach, and I'm going to try not to be, who's just giving so many directions, because I think that we need to let our players play more, because if they do make mistakes, isn't that like a perfect teaching moment for us to sit that player down and be like, hey, what was your thought process when you did that? And then they can explain it to you, and then it's be like, oh, that's what they were thinking the whole time? Oh, okay, I can work with that. And so in the future, they don't make that mistake. But if you're always just giving them commands, not only are they always responsive, but they're not really learning why they're doing it. They're just learning how to follow orders. And so I think that was a really good message a lot of my guests have kind of brought up, is just, let your players play. They'll surprise you with how much they know and what they can do if you just relax a little bit and just give them the opportunity to show what they can do.
Yeah, that's actually really good advice, because to kind of, before I get into my question,
go ahead.
To kind of compound on that, also what you're doing is, if they're constantly waiting for those commands, they're not learning how to talk to each other defensively, because they're just waiting for the coach to tell them what to do, instead of communicating with each other, saying, hey, screen left, switch, any of that stuff, because coach is constantly doing it.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. And just to add to that really quickly, we can't really develop leaders on the court either if they know that the coach is always the one giving the commands. If I want a player to be a leader on that court, then I got to let him lead. It sounds simple, but I feel like me and a lot of other coaches, it's just a struggle, because it's just letting go of control. It's hard. It's hard sometimes to do that. Yeah. So if you could, tell us a little bit more about your YouTube channel. It's a Teen Mental Health Series, right? And your podcast is X's and O's? So we do, I have on my YouTube series, so if you just look up the Basketball Teacher Podcast, I have a teen mental health series within that channel, and it's kind of is giving the X's and O's of some things related to teen mental health. It's a phenomenal resource, so if you search up the Basketball Teacher Podcast, Teen Mental Health Series. Right now I have 5 parts to it, and they are interviews with various mental health professionals, ranging from sports psychologists to teen therapists to social workers, a lot of people who have a lot of expertise in the area of mental health. One of the things I thought was really interesting is I did a Twitter poll on the Basketball Teacher Podcast Twitter, and it was asking coaches, compared to when you were a teenager, how stressful is it to be a teenager today? And I would say like 90% of the responses say, oh, it's much more stressful to be a teen today than it was when I was a teenager. And I think that that's really eye-opening, and I absolutely agree with that. There's just so much going on with, social media and all these other things that are happening. And so if you look up our mental health series, we go through basically what are teenagers going through? What are some ways that coaches can reach out and connect to their players on a more personal level? What are some resources that players could be able to use? How do you deal with, conflicts when there's parents who have conflicts with their players? How do you deal with athletes who have identity issues and they put so much stress and pressure on themselves because they feel like they have to be super successful on their sport? So if you're listening and you care about that sort of thing, if you care about teen mental health, especially as it relates to athlete teen mental health, go ahead and search that up on YouTube. There's phenomenal interviews and great guests and resources on there.
That's fantastic.
That's great. And as always, we will put all this information at the bottom of the screen at the end of the show, but just so you don't have to think you have to write all this down now.
Right.
We will definitely have you covered, okay?
Taking notes.
All right. Don't try to take notes and forget what you're doing.
That's a good student tactic, but you don't need to do it here.
We got your Cliff Notes at the end. At the end. All right, Coach. How do you balance your schedule? I mean, now, of course, with everything that's going on, but how would you balance your schedule with coaching and your YouTube channel and your podcast?
Oh, man, when you put it like that, that is, how do I do it, man? How do I do that? Honestly, it's cliche, but you really just have to be organized. I was never the type of person who, I would have a calendar or anything like that, but I have to have one now, and I have to have a calendar to organize everything, and I think that one of the things that I try to do and try to live by is the idea of be where you are. So if I'm working on my podcast for an hour, then that's where my attention is, right? That's where my mind is. I'm not going to be looking at my phone. I'm not going to be worrying about everything else. I'm going to put the best hour that I can into that, because it would be really easy for me to, look at my phone, do this, that, or the other, and next thing you know, I'm spending 5 hours on this podcast when really I only needed to spend 1. And so I think you have to just balance or schedule your time. So, okay, this is when I'm doing this part of my YouTube channel. This is when I'm doing my podcast. This is when I'm coaching. And honestly, also with that, this is when I'm spending time with my family. This is when I'm not doing any of those things. And so it may seem like you're kind of making your life too scheduled, but I think that if you look at it from the lens of, I'm just going to give my best hour or two into this right here, and then I can move on and give my best hour into this, whether it's, being the best father, the best brother, whatever it is, I think it's going to help your life a lot. I think that if you try to do all of those things at once, you're going to end up spending 12 hours and not really accomplishing any of those things. Yeah. So just be where you are, be in that moment, focus in on that moment, do it to the best of your ability, and just be, and when that hour passes, that hour's done. And if I don't get to everything, that's okay. There's always tomorrow. Let's move on to the next thing I want to do. And I think that's helped me a lot, but it is a lot. Some days more than others.
I hear you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to ask a little fun question, but now based off of your demeanor and getting to know you a little bit, I think I know the answer already. But I'm going to ask, have you ever been ejected from a game, player or coach? When they say, Coach, you're out of here.
If I said all the things that were in my head, I probably would be ejected from almost every game. No, I haven't, and it's hard, it's hard not to say something, but I really try to remember that, our kids, they hear and they see everything that you do. especially as a coach and even as a teacher. They notice everything. And I don't want to be the person who's like yelling at a ref and then my players start to yell at a ref and then they're like, well, you did it, so why can't I? And I don't want to be the one who's like, oh, because I'm the adult, that's why.
Right.
Like, to me, like, I don't know, that's not really getting the message across that I want to. And I think that one of the things I try to tell the players is that it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal if a ref is calling a foul against you. I don't think they're targeting you. I don't think they have it out for you. And I try not to think that a ref is doing anything against me personally either. And one of the other things that I kind of talk a little bit about in the mental health series, and I talk about it with my students as well, is to not say things or to make decisions like in the heat of the moment. Like, don't say something in anger that really doesn't represent who you are. And I found that a lot of the times when I'm like upset as a coach, if I had said something to that ref, I know that the next day I would have regretted it because it wouldn't reflect who I was as a person. And so it's hard, and I'm not saying I'm always perfect at it. I've definitely said a few things to some refs, but I just think we need to understand as coaches that our players, they see everything. If you're a teacher, your students see everything that you do. They hear everything that you do, and you just want to make sure that you're representing yourself, you're representing your school, your organization. Just put it in the best light that you can. You know, I tell my players all the time, when you go out on a game and you put that jersey on, you're representing something bigger than yourself. And if you get into a fight with a referee, they're not going to say like, oh, you know, number 20 got into a fight with the ref. It'll be, no, like that girl from Metro Tech High School got into a fight with a ref. Yeah. Now you've put the whole school under the bus, you know? And so just realizing that you represent something a little bit bigger than yourself, and just try not to say things you're going to regret later. So no, long answer, no, I haven't, but trust me, in my head, I've been ejected from many.
I've seen this guy almost get ejected a couple times.
Oh yeah.
Well, there was some questionable calls, and it was in my beginning tenured as a coach. As I grew, we all grow, and like you said, you say a lot of things in your head that really can't come out of your mouth. You're like, ooh, if I could say that. Shut down right now. So
that makes sense as a younger coach. I get it. Like, you want to like leave your mark. You're gonna go out there and you're gonna let them know how you feel. But if you're an older coach and you've been around for a while, you're gonna also see the same refs over and over again. You're gonna see the same officials come up over and over again. And it's like, I really want to go off on somebody my first year coaching, and then it's the sectional championship 9 years later, and oh man, there's that ref again. Because I know refs remember coaches. Oh yeah. So, oh boy, I just don't want to do anything that could potentially also, put my players and put them in a bad light. It's hard, but we do the best we can, and if my players, they know, and all coaches do it differently, but players, they know, hey, if you disagree with something, just ask the ref, because if you ask the ref, like, hey, why was this a foul, then you might not agree with it, but at least you'll know for the rest of the game, okay, I better not set my screen that way, or I better not do this. Like, it's just going to help out the team if you figure that out for everybody. So, yeah, that's just my philosophy.
It's a teachable moment for everybody, actually. Mm-hmm. So, I have a question for you also. Being that you coach high school basketball, and I'm going to, like, revamp this question just a little bit. If you can do anything differently in high school basketball, as in, because I see that, like, AAU and prep schools and club teams actually take away a lot of high school kids from their high school teams. What would you think? Why is that going on right now, and what would you do differently?
I think that this is a cheap plug for one of my episodes. I do have a whole episode all about interview with an AAU coach, and we talk about it. It's one of the episodes on my podcast, and I think that one of the things, unfortunately, with AAU is you get these coaches who are going to sell like this bill of goods to players and be like, hey, you know, if you join my AAU team, you join my AAU club, I'm going to get you exposure, I'm going to get you recruited, I'm going to get you this, that, or whatever. And you talk to some of these coaches, they don't have connections with anybody. You know, they don't know anybody. And so I think that a lot of players might look at AAU as like, this is what I have to do if I even want to be seen by a college. And so they're more eager to jump into that, and I think that it is a disservice in that I think that players really miss out on something if they don't have the opportunity to put on like their high school uniform. I think that there's something to be said for like representing your school, for representing, you know, something bigger than yourself, in the sense that when you walk down the hallways, you know, kids know like, oh man, that guy plays for our school's basketball team, or that girl plays for our basketball team. And I think that some players and maybe even parents and coaches, they probably just need to be realistic with some of their players and be like, look, like, you can go ahead and play AAU, but understand that if you want to go play at a higher level, you also got to do this, and like AAU isn't just going to be the only thing you're going to do, and it's, you know, going to get you all of these opportunities. And so I think that that's just an honest conversation that a lot of people need to have. And you know, there's a lot of great AAU coaches out who have a lot of connections, but you know, there's some who just aren't as reputable as they might come across, and you got to definitely do your research with that. And another thing too is that I think that just something that's difficult with me with AAU sometimes is because of how much of a time demand that it is. Like if you play AAU and then you go play like for your high school team, like, well, at what point do you get to be a teenager? At what point do you get to do other things with your life? At what point do you, like, there's so much research about like being multi-sport athletes, and you know how important it is for players to have that exposure. You know, Hakeem Olajuwon, right? He was a great soccer player too, and then just happened to like play basketball. And I think that would be something we really got to look into. You know, I just talked earlier about like scheduling, like when is AAU time and when is high school time, and let's keep those separated as much as possible, because I think players just need the opportunity to put their high school jersey on.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. Well, before we get into our normal off topic, I just want to ask you, with everything going on in the NBA, say your championship team waited till the playoffs or the championship game, and something came up, and they said, "Coach, we want to boycott this game for this reason." What is your response?
Do it. If you can articulate to me like the reason, and if you're informed and you're educated, and like if you don't feel like comfortable playing, or if something comes up and you're like, you know, like this isn't something I feel comfortable doing, great. For me, if you can articulate it and you can speak up for yourself and you understand the reasons why you're doing something, you have my support 100%, because I think that if a player wants to, like, if a team wants to sit out a game, and they want to protest something they think is unfair or you know, not just, if they do that, they're going to remember that moment and doing that and standing up for something they believed in and having support. They're going to remember that so much more than they're going to remember a game that they played. And right. I think that if you're a coach and you care about the development of players as people, and they have an opportunity to grow as people, and that growth is like this huge amount of growth, you have to like I think you have to support that. And what kind of message is that if we don't? You know, what kind of message is that if we're just like, no, like basketball is more important than any social issue that you're worried about? You know, I think that I love basketball, and I know that you guys coach, and we love our sport so much, but understanding where the sport fits in within like the bigger picture of society, I think it's important to realize some of the other issues that are out there. And so for me, I'd support them 100%. I would just ask that they can articulate their reasons to me, so I know that it's a well-informed decision.
All right.
And that's fair.
That's fair. That's all you can ask. All right. Well, this is going to be kind of awkward for you. Since you are a Spurs fan,
I can't say Tim Duncan, I'm assuming.
no, you can't. It's not even a part of this discussion.
Not on this one.
Okay.
Who is better, Kobe or LeBron?
Kobe. Like
He didn't even hesitate.
I didn't. You know. Part of it to me is I witnessed Kobe as a Spurs fan. Just hurt me a lot as a Spurs fan. I saw that Mamba mentality stuff, and to me, like Kobe is just another level to me, man. Like I respect LeBron. I love LeBron. I think he's great, but it's just Kobe, you know. To me, it's just like, but it's Kobe. so that's me. It's Kobe.
You know, we have to ask. That's a running question that we have to ask on our Sportcast, and I think you gave the fastest response to that question.
That's faster than even.
I think that's the fastest
even our response.
Right. As soon as I got the question out, the answer was there.
I could try to think about it more, but I know I'm just gonna go back to picking Kobe.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna pick him. So you know, once you got the mind made up. Now, like I said, I love LeBron. I'll hear all the arguments for him. You can talk to me all you want about LeBron for 10 minutes, and then right after I'm gonna say, yeah, but Kobe, and then you know, that's gonna be where I'm at. So
I hear you.
Oh man!
All right, now our other staple question. Well, not even a staple question. It's the Our Way segment. All right. So now you have your Mount Rushmore. I'm giving you two. Okay. One for coaches and one for players. Any sport. Who's on your Mount Rushmore? Let's start with coaches.
All right. For coaches, I'm putting Popovich up there. You can't stop me. So you know what? No, going up there. I'm going to make sure he gets on there. But I also think he somewhat deserves to be on there as well. So I'm putting Greg Popovich there. Greg Popovich is going to get there, and I'm chiseling the stone right now as we speak for him. For coaches, any sport, Popovich. Boy, I know I talked to you guys off air. I'm also a Falcons fan, so putting Bill Belichick there if I'm going any sport. But Bill Belichick, okay. I guess, you know, for Bill Belichick, I have to go with him. You know, one of his philosophies, which I embody a lot too, is like do your job. I love that. You know, I think that's such a big thing. So Bill Belichick. Oh man, probably Red Auerbach, Celtics. I mean, you win that many championships. You're that successful with the Celtics. I probably got to pick him, and then Phil Jackson. I mean, you know, Phil Jackson. I mean, how can you leave him off? I don't know if anyone's disagreed. Does anyone not put Phil Jackson on there? I'd actually be curious.
I don't think we've. And actually, Pop shows up on there more than
a lot.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Belichick.
Yeah, and Belichick. Yeah, those are three of the most popular. Mm.
Right. So we should just tell you got to give us three more.
You know what? You know who does deserve a spot? I will tell you that Gino Auriemma does deserve a spot up there.
There you go.
He's done for women's basketball. Yes. Gino, hey, if you can get players to go play in Connecticut in the winter, you must be doing something right up there. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, Gino and Pat Summitt did great things. You know.
Right.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, those coaches, all of them, Vivian Stringer and so many of these other just phenomenal coaches in the women's game. Absolutely.
All right, I'm gonna help you out on the players Mount Rushmore. Tim Duncan is already there, so don't say Tim. He's already on the Mount Rushmore. You wasn't gonna put him?
No, I'll explain why, but I wasn't going to put it.
Okay, well, go ahead. Let me let you do your Mount Rushmore, then I need to hear your explanation.
Okay, so I'm putting Jordan, Bird, Magic, and Kareem. And so, look, okay, so here's my thought process, and it can easily change. So I went to school. I was a history teacher, so I studied history, and I'm a history teacher. Well, I used to be. I'm an English teacher now. And I think my thing with people like Duncan and Curry, LeBron, even like Shaq and Kobe, is they're so recent that like it's almost like I can't put them into the like correct historical context. Like I can't quite like I know where they belong, but I feel like I need like another 10 years to really separate from that generation, and then I could be like, oh, okay, like yeah, they definitely belong. So like I know what Jordan did. I know where his generation was. I know that with Bird and Magic and Kareem, but some of these other guys who are current or were recently current, it's almost like I need some time to pass. I need like some time to like put it in the correct context, if that makes sense. But trust me, Tim Duncan, you won't have to wait too long. I don't think he's going to have to wait too long, but he's got to be patient. He's not even in the Hall of Fame yet. He's going to be there soon. He's not even in the Hall of Fame yet. So I'll let him get the Hall of Fame distinction, and then maybe he'll get the more prestigious one of being on my Mount Rushmore. If he's patient, maybe he can get that one too.
Well, he's first ballot.
I have another question for the all-weight. If Larry Bird and Steph Curry had a 3-point contest, who would win?
Is Larry Bird going to take off his warm-up jacket or not? Remember the 3-point contest where he kept his warm-up jacket on?
He's leaving the jacket on. He's leaving the jacket on.
And is Steph Curry going to have his mouthpiece dangling out of his mouth all the time while he shoots? I'm probably going to pick Bird just because everything I hear about Larry Bird just sounds like he's the ultimate competitor. I can imagine if Bird and Curry had this, that Curry, he would shoot some shots and he would just sort of play it off, be like, oh, whatever. Like Larry Bird, I feel like would be out there to win, and he would just be like, oh, I'm winning this, and that's just it's just a different mentality, I think. And so, wasn't it Steph Curry? And I feel bad, I'm putting him on blast now. Wasn't it Steph Curry who he was doing some charity thing about like shooting threes and like however many he made were going to like go to charity or something? He didn't make that many. It was in like some summer camp or something that he did. But anyway, I know if Larry Bird was in that same position of like, I got to make this many threes for charity, 10 out of 10. No
question. No question.
Yeah. Just different mentality.
Any more questions?
Real quick, I will say really quickly about the Mount Rushmore thing. It's a real shame that Duncan and Kobe aren't going to be there both together when they get inducted. You know,
oh my God,
that's terrible. You know,
we're missing out. We're missing out on probably what has been one of the greatest Hall of Fame acceptance speeches we will have ever heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're probably going to get like 20 words from Tim Duncan. So that is
all right, Coach. I know we was talking off air, and I told you I was going to mention this.
Okay.
How many times has parents came to you or students is like, you're not the teacher, and you cannot be my coach because you're too young?
So, oh boy, not as many as you would think, and it's amazing. I'm 29 right now, and I've been coaching and teaching for 8 years. So you can imagine what it must have been like 8 years ago when I first started. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen too much, and if it ever does, if it happens, then I'm just like, hey, just trust me. Just trust me, and you'll learn, and I'll coach you. And if you don't feel like you're learning, and you don't feel like you're getting coached, just let me know. And so far, no player and no student has ever complained. So right now, I got a track record that speaks for itself, and I'm happy about that. And it's funny, I've joked about that, and coworkers have joked, like, man, you look so young. I'm like, yeah, it's not that fun now, but if I'm like 45 and I can look like 25, it's going to be pretty great. So I'm trying to keep it. What I don't want is I don't want to go from looking 25 to like the next day looking like 70. Like I don't want to make that transition. So, so far so good. So far so good. They keep me young. That's what I tell them. I said the players.
I tell you what, that transition happens for me as soon as I take my hat off, bro.
Oh man.
I have another question, OG. So being that the schools are closed during the pandemic, kids are online. Mm-hmm. What are coaches doing now to keep kids motivated to master their craft?
So it is tough. It's tough. to do that because at least for the population that I work with, a lot of our players, they have a lot of other responsibilities that they're doing as well right now. Like they're taking care of young ones. Some of them are picking up jobs. Some of them are doing a lot of other things. And I think one of the things that we have to do as coaches is really make sure that they're being taken care of on all their other non-basketball stuff. You have to make sure you're investing in them like personally and making sure that they're okay as people and things are going good at home first. Let them know that you care about them as people. And then there's been a lot of really good ideas with stuff on the court. You can give them at home workouts to do, and then that you have the kids like send them in, and then you make like a little mixtape of it. You can have like little drills that you demonstrate and have them do. I know some coaches did like contests of which player can do the best impersonation of me and things like that to do like team building and things like that. And honestly, I think the biggest thing you got to do as a coach is just have a way to bring them together, whether it's a Zoom meeting or whether it's, something that you can do. Just keep them connected with one another and just, give them some things that they can do and they can work on, but really just spend that time with that like team bonding and that like, hey, let's make sure we're all doing well, and don't think that any of you have been forgotten by any of us, because, and you guys probably know this too, for a lot of our young athletes and teenagers, a lot of them are feeling pretty isolated right now. They're feeling pretty kind of alone in their house, and so anything to do that you can just bring them together, I think right now is the most important thing. And if you can happen to get some sports out of it, great, but just make sure that the people are being taken care of first.
For sure.
Great.
Any more questions?
Nah, not right now. Not right now.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on the show today. I've learned a lot today.
Yes.
I've heard of the Metro Tech program. I can't wait to, if you guys have a season this year, come check you guys out. Maybe I can come sit down and practice, and we can, brainstorm a little bit. And because I'm getting back into coaching coming up soon, and looking forward to coming down there and checking out your program.
For sure. Thank you guys for having me, and thank you. Yeah, if you're in the Phoenix area, love any of the support. Metro Tech, 19th Ave and Thomas. Go Knights.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, before we get out of here, of course, as usual, we want to thank you all, our followers, our supporters, our subscribers since day one. We're 16, 17 episodes into this, and it's been a great journey. We're going to keep going, so we want y'all keep sharing. Go in there, subscribe, hit that bell, man. You'll get to know when we're coming on every time. You'll get the premiere info as soon as we get it posted. So thanks for continuing to support. I want to sign off with, of course, the three that we lost this week. Unfortunately, Coach Lute Olson, Cliff Robinson, and Chadwick Boseman, unfortunately. And a quick shout out, to Coach Hernandez, because I actually grew up in that area. I know a lot about Metro Tech, and those kids in that area need somebody just like you that has their back. So thank you for coming on this show, for real.
Thank you very much for having me. Keep doing the good work, guys. You guys are doing a great job.
And I want to give up also, thoughts and prayers to the ones that we lost in 2020. To the wife, the children, mom, dad, friends, extended family. Stay safe, stay blessed, and stay humble.
Yes, sir. All right, Coach Hernandez, you have anything you want to say when you sign off?
I just want to say thanks to you guys. That thanks to everybody who's supported you guys, supported my podcast, and just big shout out real quick to all of you who are teaching, all of you who are coaching, all of you who are making that happen in this challenging time. Those kids need you. I know how hard it is, whether it's virtual or in person, but if you're a teacher especially, you're just so valuable, and your kids just appreciate what you're doing so much. So keep up the great work and stay safe out there, teachers.
Thank you. Yes. I don't even know where to start for my sign off, to be honest. It's been one of those crazy weeks with everything going on. I just want to say, everybody just stop and think. Okay? Just stop and think. Before you, like the coach said, before you react, stop and think. There's a lot of things that could go different. It's a lot of things that has gone wrong because we didn't stop and think. People we've lost, social injustice, everything that's going on. It's rough time. It's a rough time. And the only way to get through this, stay prayed up, stay close to the ones that you're close to. Even if you don't agree with someone, listen. But disagree. You can agree to disagree without anything going wrong. All right. To my 4G brothers, love you all. Coach Hernandez, thank you very much for being there. Sports mom, love her to death, and we gotta do better. We gotta do better, and it starts at the top. So if you don't like what's going on, remember, November is very important. If you're not registered to vote, please go vote and get registered. Okay. All right. All the Coach Hernandez's information will be in the bottom. Also, my last shout out is to a hip hop legend who made this shirt, DJ Red Alert. Thank you very much. Where you can get this shirt and much other stuff, I will also have that in the description at the bottom of the show as well. But as always, if you like the show, you want to comment, anything that you want to say, hit us up at 4gsports@gmail.com. That's sports with the Z. And of course, we're on all social media platforms, IG, Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, 4G Sports. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. 4Gs, we're out.